What is up? What is up, guys? Um, Welcome to episode, I believe we're on 14 now, which is crazy to think. Um, yeah, it's wild, you know? When I originally started the podcast, my whole idea was kind of inspired by Alex Hermosi. And, I'll say Alex Hermosi and Wes Watson, right? Wes Watson is interesting because he just sits and screams at the microphone the entire time, and it's like some crazy rah motivation stuff. Super short, super to the point podcasts. Um, and then Alex Hermosi, basically, I've actually never listened to his podcast, which is kind of funny, but um, the way that I consume his content is normally through Instagram. And so I saw this reel of him talking about his podcast, and he basically was like he started his podcast in, I believe it was like 2015 or something, 2015, 2017, something along the lines of that. But he was like, he basically just talked about how it had taken him 7 years of doing podcasts consistently, nonstop, and without ever missing a day to finally become one of the top 10, um, which is crazy, guys. And this is something um, that you have to kind of allow to bleed into every other aspect of your life, is like that mindset of just like you always just reap what you sow, right? Like you get what you give. That's just, it's a given. So, with that being said, if you can just take the, um, how would you even say that? Like, if you just take like, if you stop expecting to get, right? Like, if you can just take the expectation away from getting and just focus on giving, right? Just give value over and over and over and over until finally it comes back to you. Like, because it's so interesting. Like, you never know when the universe is going to bring that value back to you. You never know. But the only thing you do truly know and have control over is how much you give. And so with the way that I've looked at this podcast, that's what it's all about. Obviously doing my best to reach people who will sit and watch long form content. And if you're here, shout out to you. Like, you are definitely a real one, and I appreciate it a ton. Um, but then more than anything, just, those little clips that I can share on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Reels, TikTok, all the stuff, just to try and broaden my reach, but at the same time, just give value to the world. And I think that's been kind of my main focus with this. And another thing that Alex Hermosi talks about when he talks about his podcast is, normally the first year of running a podcast is just about finding your voice, right? So um, a lot of the time you're not going to be great at podcasts right away. And that goes for anything. Like, you start a company, you're probably not going to be the best in the marketplace in the first year, if not 5, 10 years. Um, Relationships, look back at your first relationship. You know what I mean? Like, we're never the best right in the beginning. That's just how it goes. Like, unless you find something that you're extremely talented at and you're the anomaly, like, the majority of the time you have to work consistently in order to better your skills in that area. Um, so with that being said, the entire mindset of this podcast was not to knock it out of the park and be a home run and be the greatest podcast in the world, but more just to show up and test myself every single day, because it definitely has been a journey. Like, episode 1 through 14 already, it's really interesting because I was thinking about it, and I was like, man, I used to get so stressed. Like, I remember the night before I recorded my first podcast, I scheduled it, and we had this podcast room. Like, I booked out the podcast room and stuff, and I was just like, sketched. Like I couldn't sleep because I didn't know what to say. And then in my head, I'm like rationalizing, okay, I'm going to say this and I'm going to talk about this and planning out the whole thing. But the reality is like you can't just plan a 20-30 minute podcast. There's no way that this could be scripted, you know. But anyways, the progression is crazy because now we're on episode 14 and I've been in here for hours. I don't even know how long. I've been in here for a while. You know, I record 2 podcasts a week. So it's just a lot of me rambling and rationalizing things. But um, one thing I noticed was like I've stopped thinking about what needs to be said. You know, until I get in here, I can sit down. Like I can literally sit down at this chair, hit record, and then figure out what needs to be said. And I just like I have gained that confidence in myself simply because I've shown up now 14 times, you know, and I know that I can make it meaningful and talk about something that is very applicable to my life and that will potentially reach people, you know, or people will resonate with. So it's super cool. But my point being that in any area of your life, right? And I like to use the podcast or my businesses as an example, but in any area of your life, you can't just expect to be proficient immediately. So, with that being said, a lot of the time you have to approach it with a different point of view from a different like standpoint. You can't be a perfectionist. Like you just have to show up and be willing to fail, you know, be willing to look dumb, be willing to be stressed, you know, because those conditions create the perfect environment for growth. You know, like if I never felt dumb or if I never felt like anxious or whatever, like I would probably just sit on the couch all day and do nothing. You know, like that essentially just removes the sense of urgency from my life. You know, if I don't feel anxious, if I don't feel like I need to improve. Um, and it just breeds this like complacency, you know? So, with that being said, sometimes the best thing that you can possibly do is just jump off the ledge and build your wings on the way down. And I know that's like the most cliche thing, and every single personal development person says that, but there truly is no better way of innovating than by necessity. Like you have to show up and you have to put yourself in that stressful position in order to be like, okay, how am I going to do this? And then your brain starts to work, you know, and the crazy part about that is like you'll find solutions that are completely outside of anything that you ever would have imagined, you know, like right now I could sit down and try to rationalize something that I haven't taken action on. And once you start to take action, the pathways change because you learn more and more about how things work. And so, with that being said, like you just have to put yourself in those stressful situations, whether that's writing the check, you know, signing up for the coaching program or whatever. Like with Shroom Brew is great. Like I've never been in product based business before, guys. I've never done like I this is my first time even being around it, and we've got we've got around $40,000 of inventory coming in a week. And guys, I have no idea what I'm gonna do. You know what I mean? But like I have no idea how I'm gonna move it. I have no idea. We have gotten shipping kind of figured out. Like the process is not 100% automated. I don't know. But with that being said, I've been thinking about it a lot and I know that I'll come up with a solution. You know, and that's one thing like I've focused on dropping my ego. And in the last podcast, I talked about how abundance or success and prosperity is a natural state of being, right? So, with that being said, the things that hold us back most of the time are our ego. Um, I just completed a 48-hour fast. I spent a lot of time just contemplating what we're going to do with Shroom Brew and how we're going to take that to the next level. And same with Sovereign Lifestyle, because we're almost in the same position with Sovereign Lifestyle where we're going to start investing a lot of money into ads and things like that. And the biggest thing that I realized in my during my 48-hour fast was that I can't do this all myself. Like I just can't. Like I'm one person. I don't know how to market. Like I don't know all this stuff, and I do my best. Like I know the very very basics, but at some point I'm going to have to rely on someone else to help me continue to move forward. And I think for me that was like a big thing, a big like way of or that was just me dropping my ego because I started reaching out to people, and and our ego is the thing that tells us we have to do everything ourselves. Like that's been kind of my curse, my thing that I've had to overcome in entrepreneurship is like trusting other people to show up and produce and take care of things the way that I would. And anyways, so yeah, with that being said, like a lot of partnerships are going to come out of this, a lot of working with people and having to trust the process and drop my ego and just make things happen. So, with that being said, in ways that you can apply this to your daily life, right? Like if you feel called to something, right? Like if there is something out there calling you and you feel like you need to go do it, just start. And this is like, I've said it over and over and over and over, but just start. Like there are so many things that will come up once you start. And I like whatever your limiting factor is, right? Whether that be time, money, or whatever, like maybe you don't believe in yourself, like you'll figure out ways. I promise. Like that's you don't realize like when you truly want something, you figure out ways to do it. And I always tell people like you think doctors like med school's like 500,000 right now. Like you think doctors just have $500,000 sitting in the bank and then they're like, "Well, yeah, I think I'll go be a doctor." No. Most of the time doctors are working at Pizza Hut for $7 an hour and then they're like, "Okay, well I want to go be a doctor." So they take out loans and they figure out a way to do it. And my point being like don't just be bad with money, right? But at some point, if you're truly investing in yourself and you're going all in and you are building yourself into who you want, who you need to be and like adding value, it's a universal principle that will come back to you at some point. So with that being said, and this is one of the big things that I feel like I have made mistakes on in the past is I've built things like that where I'm making a good amount of money, but I didn't build who I was, right? Like I've worked multiple jobs and like I built a good savings and like, all the stuff. And the problem with that was the second those jobs went away, Dylan Lowe had zero value. Get it? So with my company now, with Sovereign Lifestyle, like it will never go away. I will never fire myself. But two, even if like worst case scenario things hit the fan, like I am still Dylan Lowe. I still built the company. I still am a pro bodybuilder. Like I've still done I have all the accolades in that area. And at some point that is going like monetarily that will come back. Um, so guys, it's just, you have to realize like life isn't a game of just getting, sometimes there are times like sometimes you just have to go all in and just see how much you can give and how long you can give it for. And then once you're consistently giving, find out more efficient ways to give. And it's like I say, guys, it is a universal principle that the more you give, the more you get. Like that's just how it is. And I'm not saying give with the intention to get, right? Because that's hard, because the second you don't get, you get frustrated. And I fall into that all the time. But my point being, like, if you can simply just relax a little bit, like if you can simply just give value to give value in any way that you possibly can, with time, it will come back. Like that's just how it works. Um, and a lot of the time that just starts with taking that first step, right? Allow yourself to look dumb, allow yourself to spend the money or be wrong or whatever, as long as you are doing things that are in line with who you want to be and what you and the impact you want to make in the world, then it will all come for full circle. You just you just have to hold on to that, you know. Um Guys, I moved out of my parents' basement at 21, no, 22. Yeah, it was like right after I turned 22. Newly divorced. I moved back in with my parents, dropped out of school, quit my job, everything. I was just going through it. And I had nothing. Like, I had no idea what I was going to do. I had no money. And there was just this thing that called me. And it was to go be the best fitness coach that I can possibly be. That's all it was. And I had no idea what the path was. I had no idea what I needed to do next. And so I moved out of my hometown into a townhouse, into a single bedroom in a townhouse with 3 other guys that I had never met before, completely broke. Like I had to I had to borrow $500 from my dad just to even get into my first month or get into my place for the first month. Um, and it's worked out. Like here we are, that was 2019. Here we are 5 years later, guys. And I'm not saying like it doesn't come back proportionally because I've consistently gave and gave and gave. Well, it hasn't yet. And I'm not saying like I'm not keeping score or anything, but my point being like I'm truly passionate about fitness. I'm truly passionate about taking care of your body, pushing it to the next level, and gaining confidence the way that I found confidence, right? Or helping others gain confidence the way that I found it. Um, and with that being said, like, I don't really care about the money anymore. Like, as long as I can live, as long as I can, like, live and give to the world and give to the people around me, I don't care about money. Like that's like obviously to some extent like money does equate to freedom and like all the stuff. Um but like I've said to everyone, like I would be doing this no matter what, right? And I always try to talk to people about like the end. Like what's the end goal, right? And the funny part is if you so the funny part is, this is a quiz that I give to a lot of people, especially like Uber drivers and stuff. But um, I always ask them like, what would you do if I gave you $1 billion right now and you never had to worry about money again? And it's so funny because like, one, the majority of them can't answer. Like they have no idea what they would even do with that. Two, most of them are like, well, I don't know, I'd buy a house, I guess. Like, and it's funny because like neither of those things, like one, the first one doesn't answer any questions, but two, the second one, buying a house for yourself doesn't help anybody in the world. Like it doesn't solve any problem, right? So with that being said, you have to think of like what's the impact you want to make in the world. And for me, if somebody walked in here and handed me $1 billion, I know for a fact that I would continue showing up and I would continue doing the exact same things that I do right now. The only difference is I'd probably take a few more vacations a year, maybe 1 or 2 more vacations a year. Yes, I would have investments and stuff, but the day to day would look the exact same, guys, because this is the impact that I want to make on the world. This is the impact I want to make on the world. If I make $0, if I make $1 billion, like nothing changes. This is it for me, and I think starting with the end in mind is a very, very, very good way to go about that because it's harder in the beginning, but it's also more rewarding because you are where you know you need to be. So, Anyways, kind of been rambling, but yeah, guys. So with that being said, get started. Like whatever the thing is, like just go out and invest some money, invest some time. Like you will figure it out. Like so, just start, guys, and I promise, like you will receive insight after you make the investment that will pull everything together, and you will like it will work out for you. It's just simply that the universe forces you to take that leap of faith first before it allows you to level up. So, with that being said, this week, take that leap of faith, whatever it is, like whatever the thing is that you feel called to do, just start doing it and just remove that. How do you even say it? Like remove the condition from it, right? Just say, I'm going to go do this. I don't care if I make $1 million. I don't care if I make $0. I'm just going to go do it because it's what I believe to be meaningful. And if you consistently do that over a long period of time, you will find success. That's just how it works. But anyways, okay, guys, we will catch you on the next one. Have a good week.